Fort Kiawe, a fort on the borders of the nation or in the nation, had long been desired by the traders and settlers, and even by some of the best disposed Indians themselves. As early even as 1734, the importance of such a fort had been recognized in Charleston, but its erection had been put off from time to time. And the colonists, instead of building the fort themselves, had petitioned the Parliament of Great Britain to build it. After years of delay, the province was compelled to do the work at its own expense, and the council directed that land be purchased from the Indians and that the fort be erected as near as possible to the Indian town of Kiawe. Accordingly, Governor Glenn, in the fall of 1753, visited the country of the Lower Cherokees, bought a quantity of land, and built the fort at Kiawe. It was claimed that by this purchase, the English acquired this territory, now embraced it in the districts of Abbeville, Edgefield, Lawrence, Union, Spartanburg, Newberry, Chester, Fairfield, Richland, and York. Whether this claim is just or not, it is certainly true that from this time the settlements began rapidly to extend. But be this as it may, the building of the fort, which was called Fort Prince George, purchased only a brief peace for the nation and short-lived confidence on the border. Massacres soon began again, and the savages were as restless and annoying as before. Conference at Saluda Old Town. Governor Glenn again invited the chiefs to meet him in conference in Charlestown. They refused to go to Charlestown, basing their refusal, they said, on the fear of the fatal sicknesses which they had before contracted there, and which they might again contract. They agreed, however, to meet at some place between the nation and Charlestown. The meeting took place at Saluda Old Town in the summer of 1755. Of what was actually done at this conference we know but little, but an intrinsic admirer of the governor, a man named Moses Thompson, writing to him in January 1756, says, "I cannot forget my impressions of your paternal care of South Carolina since you came amongst us. First, your journey to 96 to settle a peace with the Cherokees, and thence to Savannah to make peace with the Creeks. Second, your long journey to the Cherokee Nation to build a fort. Third, your journey to Saluda in the heat of summer to settle a second peace with the Cherokees in troublous times, which acts crowns all the rest. For I verily believe that never was such a firm peace made with any Indians before, and all resulting in the advancement of the indigo manufacture, and likewise your great care of our back settlers, for when I was major under your excellency. I cannot forget your care by your instructions to me and on several occasions, besides your private letters to me to inform your excellency of any event the proper steps might be taken for our safety. I think your successor will have nothing to do but to walk in your footsteps, for you have paved the plainest road that can be taken, which I think will keep your memory in the minds of the people when you are dead and gone. Chapter 2. To settlers of various nationalities. Still, we're looking in the book of History of Edgefield. Edgefield, like other parts of middle sections of the state, was settled by people representing the various nationalities of Europe: English, Scottish, Irish, the Welsh, the German, the Dutch, and French. English predominating so greatly as to make the English language the language of the country. Though several others are spoken in the United States in different sections and are the everyday language of the people, especially German, Swedish, and French. Like other parts of the upper country, Edgefield received many settlers from the north, from Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, and North Carolina, and also came from Georgia. And perhaps some few from colonies further north. Some also came from Georgia, as in the early days of that colony. There were laws prohibiting the sale and use of rum and other ardent spirits, and also the introduction of African slaves. Many Georgia settlers, not liking these laws, moved over into Carolina, where the use of both was allowed. No matter from what region they came, nor of what nationality, they were a hardy, brave, energetic, industrious, adventurous set of men, such as pioneers must always be. Cold breaths, hazels, and sea. Amongst the earliest settlers of the Saluda side of Edgefield was a Scottish family, or perhaps there were several families who settled in the year 1756, about 4 miles south of where Chapel's Ferry now is, and near where afterwards was organized and built by them the Baptist Church of Chestnut Hill. This church, by the way, was named Chestnut Hill because it was built on a hillside near where grew many chestnut trees, some very large. This growth was found nowhere else but in this neighborhood. The settlement was called Scotland and is still known and recognized by that name by some of the older citizens, though the descendants of Coldbreaths, the original settlers, are no longer there. Joseph Coldbreath was born in Scotland near Plymouth in 1747 and was brought over to Edgefield by his father. Edward Coldbreath, who settled there in 1756. Edward Coldbreath, the father, lived only 1 year after coming to this country, dying in 1757. He left 4 sons surviving him: Joseph, John, Daniel, and Edward. These all lived to be over 70 years of age. Luke Coldbreath, the grandson of Joseph, his father was John, whom I remembered well, was 84 years of age in May, in 1891, and has lived 62 years at his present home near Pleasant Lane, 10 miles north of Edgefield County. Chapel Hill. I guess Chestnut Hill. CH. There were once many Coldbreaths in Scotland, but now there are none in that region of country, and the name is almost extinct in Edgefield. James Y. Coldbreath is a lawyer at Newbury. He is a direct descendant of Edward Coldbreath, the founder of the colony at Scotland. His father was William, a brother of Luke Coldbreath, above mentioned. There was a family named Hazel Scotch, also, who came with Edward Coldbreath to seek new homes in a new world. The head of the family was Henry Hazel. Some of that family are still living in that part of the country not far from the original place of settlement. Passing down Saluda, not far from Scotland, and near Saluda, Old Town, is an old settlement, now owned, that is part of it, by Johnson Haygood, and it's cultivated as a grass farm. That is, the low grounds bordering on the river. The other part, which includes the original homestead, is owned by J.V. Coldbreath and others of Newbury. It was here at this old homestead where Captain William Butler of the Revolution found his wife, Bethelyn Foot Moore. This place was settled a few years after the settlement at Scotland by Mr. Savage from Virginia, who had married the widow Moore, the mother of several children, William, George, and Bethelyn. We're going to get into the Abneys of South Abneys and C after we return for the next part. Thank you for coming in. King Cooley. We out.